Marine reacts to Warhammer 40K Cadia by the Templin Institute. As always, I'm going to be leaving a link to the original video and channel down in the description below, so go ahead and make sure that you check them out. So, the planet fell before the Imperial Guard did, or something along those lines. I'm mainly paraphrasing this, but that's honestly one of the biggest things that's really kept my genuine interest in Cadia, or just learning more about it and then hear about how it fell. Just because the fact that these guards are still fighting, even though the planet's breaking apart, I don't know, there's just something about willing to still fight even though you know you're going to lose it. There's a certain amount of respect that goes with that. And not to mention, these are just regular humans. They're not Space Marines. They don't have augmentations. They don't have the gen seed. I believe I said it right this time. Also, without taking too much time, since this is about a 10-minute video, and the final video would probably be around maybe 15-20 minutes, give or take. So I'm also going to be seeing another video today and try to get it out the same day today, or if not, it might just be like later on, maybe a little past 12. So hopefully I can get the second video out today. It's going to be the Death Core of Krieg by Sodas. But I'm going to go ahead and give it a watch. It's about 6 minutes, so it might come out to about 10-12 minutes at the end. And also any parallels I try to draw from the Warhammer 40k universe to our world is mainly just trying to throw my own little experience in it. I mean, obviously I know for the most part it's not going to really relate, because obviously 40,000 years in the future. So just know that when I do that, take it with a grain of salt. And before we get into the actual video, don't forget to like, subscribe. It really does help me out a lot. Hit that notification bell right there. That way you get notified every time I do upload. Sometimes I upload twice a day. Typically working on them in the mornings and releasing them in the late afternoon to late evening. That way when you all get off work, you can enjoy the videos at your leisure. So without further ado, let's go ahead and see what Cadia is all about.
In the region of Imperial space designated Segmentum Obscurus, there lies an anomaly that has come to be known as the Eye of Terror. It is an enormous rift, a permanent storm in the fabric of reality that for 11,000 years has provided a gateway to the nightmarish realm of the warp. Inside is a dimension of madness and despair, where skies weep blood, ancient stars burn in multicolored flares, and the whims of the dark gods hold sway. Since the time of the Horus Heresy...
Alright, so this doesn't really have to do with the video, but I have downloaded the Horus Heresy book on Audible. It's spread into about 2 parts, about 6 hours a piece. I'm about halfway through that first book, and so far it's really good. I really like the main character. I like the whole setup. It's a little confusing in the beginning, but after you get like maybe 20 minutes in, you really start to paint a picture in your head about like what's going on. Also, the dude who does the voice, perfect.
The forces of chaos that reside within have attempted to break out from the Eye of Terror and strike at the millions of worlds that lay beyond. Only one thing has stood in their path: a fortress world that guarded the only navigable route to the Eye of Terror, a place where time and time again the servants of the dark gods would break against the greatest defenders of man. It was a planet known as Cadia, and it was here above all that the bloody work of the Imperium was done. A terrestrial world closely resembling Holy Terra before the age of the Imperium, Cadia was marked by great oceans, temperate plains, windswept moors, and towering mountains. Cadia was colder than most civilized worlds, yet not enough to impede the planet's settlement. It was famous across the galaxy for its sparkling glaciers and thick pine forests. It was the planet's network of strange black monoliths that remained Cadia's most enduring mystery, however, known across the galaxy as the Cadian Pylons.
Before they go on, if anybody knows what those Cadian Pylons are? Because she just kind of said that they were there. If anyone does know any information on that, comment that down below. Because, I don't know, I mean, it could be maybe just there to be in case they want to add like another race to the mix, which obviously at this point, considering all the races that are already there, I feel like that might be overkill. But then again, this is Warhammer.
When precisely Cadia was first colonized has been lost to antiquity, But in the decades before the Horus Heresy, it had become inhabited by a primitive race of violet-eyed humans who worshipped the Chaos Gods. The Word-Bearers Legion and their Primarch, Lorgar Aurelian, was the first to re-establish contact with Cadia, but whatever transpired in these initial meetings might never be known. Lorgar ordered the cyclonic bombardment of the planet, wiping out the native Cadians and whatever secrets they possessed.
Alright, well, I mean, my first initial thing was going to be like, did they try talking to them? But then, obviously, she said that they were worshipping the Chaos Gods. Imperium, they don't really take too kind to that.
The end of the Horus Heresy, the Word-Bearers and their other traitor legions fled to the Eye of Terror to heal their wounds and nurture their hatred. Black crusades mounted across the galaxy from the Eye of Terror convinced the Imperium that Cadia was of vital strategic importance, and settlers were sent to the world to claim it in the name of the Emperor. Cadia was eventually forged into a world worthy of the Imperium, but it was learned at great cost that the planet would forever be threatened, and its entire society would have to reflect that. Its earliest cities were constructed in the traditional style emulating Holy Terra, but the broad avenues and ordered urban grids favored any attacking force, and sweeping changes were enacted. Cadia could not afford any distinction between its fortresses and cities. Streets were constructed in such a way as to disorient any potential invader, arrayed in zigzag patterns that would force an enemy to fight for every block. Bastions and local garrisons were stationed in every corner and spire that possessed a commanding view, while at the heart of every city was an enormous fortification known in the local dialect as a casser. From the air, these resembled intricate puzzles, which could be held for months, if not years, even if the surrounding city had been taken. Its people were no different than its buildings, reorganized into a society wholly devoted to the defense of their world.
There's two things I want to point out in this picture. One, I'm starting to realize that none of these guys have like sights or anything to let them know where they're shooting at. They kind of just have to, I mean, it's kind of like when we would shoot during training, where if you're really close, you're not going to be aiming through the RCO or the scope that we would have on the M4. What you would do is you would hold the barrel in a way that you're pointing forward, because typically wherever you point, consider that you will shoot in that direction. Like if I could point to something in the corner that's really small, if I hold my finger going that way and pull the trigger, more likely than not, it's going to hit it. If not, at least be close. I mean, then again, these guys aren't doing that, but when you have so many billions of people in their army or their guard, I don't think accuracy is going to really be an issue if you have a giant wall of fire just coming at you. And also, I just wanted to say, this little gun right here looks like that plasma gun. I don't know if that's the official name for it, but the one that Astartes used in the fan-made film. And yes, I have heard that these weapons are kind of dangerous, where you can only really shoot one time every couple minutes. And also they have a nasty habit of blowing up.
Every Cadian was taught the skills necessary to become a soldier from the moment they could walk. Tactical doctrine was prioritized above basic literacy, and every citizen was required to serve at least a 4-year term in the planet's military before either becoming a career soldier or instead joining Cadia's military-industrial complex. Even the wealthy and successful elite wore clothing reminiscent of the camouflage patterns issued to the lowliest guardsmen. The famed Cadian shock troops were widely regarded as the best soldiers in the Imperial Guard, and some of the most well-equipped. Regiments either formed on Cadia or those emulating its style and doctrine could be found across the entire galaxy. Cadian equipment, in particular, was so ubiquitous that it was nearly the standard of the entire Astra Militarum. For millennia, the planet stood as an unshakable foundation that challenged the will of the dark gods themselves. Every invasion was shattered, and every Black Crusade was repelled. But in the 999th year of the 41st millennium...
Just real quick, something that just popped into my head. There are Space Marines on this planet too, correct? If not, then every time they've been stopping these invasions, it's just been the Imperial Guard. And if it is just the Imperial Guard, the balls on these dudes, man, I swear.
Cadia was finally broken. Abaddon the Despoiler, greatest champion of chaos since Horus himself, launched the 13th Black Crusade. In the opening moments, elements of the Planetary Guard turned traitor, assassinating Cadia's high command, its governor, and Lord Castellan. A reformed defense now under the command of Ursarkar E. Creed were able to contain this initial assault, but the Black Crusade was just beginning. In orbit of the planet, an enormous Chaos Armada traded blows with the warships of Battlefleet Cadia, all while reinforcements swept across Cadia's skies before joining in battle against the planet's beleaguered defenders. Mysteriously, it was not the famous fortress cities of Cadia that appeared to be Abaddon's primary target, but rather the large network of pylons, particularly those within the Elysian Fields. What precisely happened there can only be guessed at, but some claim that for a brief moment, servants of the Imperium working with ancient Xenos managed to activate the Cadian pylons. The forces of chaos were seemingly cut off from the warp, and even the Eye of Terror was said to shrink.
Okay, so they activated the pylons that helped cut off the demons that were coming out of the chaos. But I'm wondering, like, who would have built it if it was built by some race that knew that the Eye of Terror was there and built these pylons as kind of like a security defense.
By the order of Abaddon, however, an enormous blackstone fortress struck Cadia with the force of an artificial meteor. The planet's continents were split apart, its ancient forests burned away. The few who managed to evacuate the dying world bore witness not only to the destruction of Cadia, but to the expansion of the Eye of Terror across the entire galaxy. With the fall of Cadia, the forces of chaos had won a victory that for millennia had been almost unimaginable. Tendrils of the warp have split the galaxy in two, and there is little doubt that the Imperium has entered the time of ending. But the ultimate triumph of Abaddon the Despoiler still eludes him. The fall of Cadia has awakened something in the Imperium more powerful than even its greatest fortress. A hunger for retribution has swept across every world, and Cadia has become a martyr whose memory has spurred humanity to ever greater feats of valor. If a creature like Abaddon is still capable of experiencing even a tinge of fear, then he must be haunted by the fact that in destroying Cadia, he has added 1 trillion fallen saints to the highest pantheon of the Imperium. For even as the planet split apart and its shattered remnants were consumed by the Eye of Terror, the red streaks of firing lasguns could still be seen in the darkness. Defenders of Cadia refusing to give in, even as their world cracked and burned around them. From their sacrifice has arisen a new battle cry, one shouted in hatred from the Arctic steppes of Valhalla to the deadly jungles of Catachan. A simple phrase that ensures the memory of Cadia will remain for as long as humanity endures. The planet broke before the Guard.
The planet broke before the Guard. There's something just inspiring about that. See, it's also like times like these where it's like I really start to totter as far as like, hey, I'm really interested in the Space Marines, I want to focus on them. Hey, I'm really interested in the Imperial Guard, I want to focus on them. And then I start hearing about what they're doing, what they're capable of, just their mentality. And it's like I keep going back and forth and I'm trying to do both at once. But damn, man, I really can't get over that quote. All right, let's talk about that for a minute. With those pylons, I really don't know who created them. They said that they were just kind of there when they found it. It's possible, maybe. I was thinking that it was probably going to be some kind of extra race that would be added in that would have some connection to it, but I don't think that's going to be probably the case. I thought it might have been the people who were originally there that ended up getting wiped out because they were worshiping the chaos gods. Also, real quick, I just want to make sure that as far as this battle went, and I had to keep reminding myself that this is a battle going on around the whole planet, not just from country to country. But were there other, for example, Space Marines that were helping with this, or like other groups? Or was everything just done by the Imperial Guard? I mean, because from what I'm hearing, it seems like it was just the Imperial Guard. It didn't seem like they were, at least that I know of, like they didn't have other factions or regiments that were there with them. I mean, I could be wrong. So as far as the pylons go, because from what I just saw, it said that this helped cut off the demons from the chaos dimension. If there's others on other worlds, and if so, would they always only be next to places like the Eye of Terror? And lastly, I just want to say, mad respect to the Imperial Guard. It takes a lot of balls to do what they do, and then considering their mortality rates, it's just the whole. They might not be a space marine as far as augmentation goes. They might not be genetically enhanced in any form or fashion, as far as I know. But they're definitely not normal humans, in my opinion, because it takes a certain type of person to have that type of mentality and to really fight to the bitter end. So in my mind, I think the Imperial Guard's best weapon, probably, I mean, obviously not their physical weapons. I don't think it's just numbers either, although the numbers would definitely be up there. I do believe it's just their mentality and always willing to push forward. But that's gonna go ahead and do it for this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, it really does help me out a lot. Dislike if you didn't like, it helps me improve the channel. If you're curious to see what's coming up next, check the video description down below, and you're gonna see from top to bottom, it's gonna be how I view them. But until then, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.